works out. Let's pull up these deck lists. So, more Swarm. This is Infernosfame's deck. And as you can see, it has more of those yellow spots in it, indicating a little bit of money. This one actually has a really odd build. So this looks like an example of the bigger Swarm deck that I was describing. We have things like Olkian, Desolator, Grandmaster Variax, even Thunderhorn for like a mid-range splash in the deck. There's a lot of odd, interesting choices in this one, actually. So just to run through, this is clearly not a full-on Swarm deck, but it still basically is. We've got the Gloom Chasers, Wraithling Swarms, Cryptographer, Zix, Furiosa. These are all Swarm staples. However, there's a bit more removal. We've got a full playset of Demonic Lure, Grasp of Agony in the main, also is 3, and 2 Punish. Personally, I think Punish is a lot worse than Ritual Banishing in Lilith, and I think Grasp of Agony is probably, for a proactive deck, probably worse than just playing Sphere of Darkness. Even though Grasp is quite a powerful card. It's pretty difficult to set these cards up to do what you want without having to spend multiple cards on the privilege. There's 1 Vellum Scry and 1 Olkian in the main deck as card draw, and we see a bit more in the sideboard, which I'll get to in a minute. No Blood Type Priestess and no Shadow Dancer. Instead, we have Deathfire Crescendo and Soul Grimoire as payoffs. So, I really like Soul Grimoire. I think it's uniquely powerful in that I have won games, mostly in Highlander, but still, by using Grimoire as just a deterrent or a value card. You know, getting your general up to 6 attack and eating a 4-drop is quite powerful, even if you're not using it to win the game. And I have used it to kill most of the bosses that they've released over time. Deathfire Crescendo we saw in action earlier. It's a very strong card. It's pretty similar to Soul Shatter Pact. Has slightly different pros and cons in terms of positioning, but it has one big pro the Soul Shatter Pact doesn't, which is that you can use it in situations where it isn't lethal and have it be useful. Like Soul Shatter, you can use it to make trades, which is pretty medium, and you can use it to kill your opponent if everything is in range. Deathfire Crescendo, you can use it to make some trades, and you can use it to kill your opponent if everything is in range to attack something, but you can also use it to just make a big dude in the mid-game and hope your opponent doesn't have an answer, which we saw earlier actually in round 1. Backing all this up, we have Betrayal and Necrotic Sphere as spicy one-offs. I'm not sure I like the Betrayal. There's not much else that it's kind of following up on. Hello. Hello. There's not much else that it's following up on. Like, if this was a Burn Abyss deck, you know, with Dark Seeds or Void Pulses or whatever, then Betrayal is an extra bit of burst, an extra like, gotcha, might be nice. I think in this case, your opponent's mostly going to be focused on removing your stuff rather than developing a big board, and so Betrayal will do less. Necrotic Sphere is a good, you know, oh crap button. Like, your opponent surrounds you, you're losing, you're like, oh no, whoops. Now they're all Wraithlings. What else is in here? The 2 Thunderhorns, I think, are quite interesting. It's a good generic creature. There's not much to back it up. There's no positional tricks. I guess you can lure stuff into position for it. That probably counts for a lot. And it's good if you buff it, but this is a lot of 1-offs and 2-offs. Yeah, that's not necessarily bad. The main problem actually with this, as I see it right now, is that there's a lot of 1-offs and 2-offs that don't overlap very much. There's a ton of like, well, I could Betrayal them, well, I could Necrotic Sphere them, well, I could Thunderhorn them, well, I could Variax them. And none of these cards are similar at all. Each one of them deserves to be in different decks. So to see them all in the same one is a bit odd. Now, sometimes you can get away with a few cards like that in the average Duelyst deck because of your replaces. But it means your replaces have to be better, and you have to run more card draw in order to make up for having situational cards in your deck. This deck doesn't have a lot of card draw, and so I fear that these are going to clog up the hand a lot. It might be better to see them in the sideboard, which they are. I spoke earlier about how much I like having kind of 1 or 2 copies of things in the main deck that are useful in most matchups, and then more in the sideboard. I don't know if I'd call Betrayal or Necrotic Sphere useful in the majority of matchups, but there are more copies in the sideboard, which seems like a much more natural fit for them. So we've got a Punish, another Venom Scry, another Betrayal, and another Necrotic Sphere, and another Thunderhorn, all taking up sideboard slots. I think it looks a little bit like Infernosfame couldn't really decide which direction to take their deck, and sort of hedged a bit and then used the sideboard as extra space, extra card slots. I think it might be worth making an actual decision of, like, I'm playing Swarm, I'm playing midrange, I'm playing Control, something. And trimming out the fat, as it were. Like, okay, I'm playing a really aggressive deck, so I'm going to keep in the Betrayal and put in, like, Soul Shadow Pact or Void Snare? Void... What's the one that, like, shrinks an enemy unit and then buffs yours? Void Steel. Put in that. And, like, an extra creature that produces minions. Like, you know, go in a more aggressive direction, or I'm going to go in a more mid-rangey direction. I'm going to put in DFC to power up Variax. I'm going to put in an extra Thunderhorn, you know, but then chuck out the Betrayal, like, chuck out some of the Swarm elements. You don't want Gloom Chaser in your mid-range deck, right? I think it's better to make the deck more coherent where you can. Looking at the rest of the sideboard, there's a single Blood-Tide Priestess. I feel like that should be in the main deck, and probably in more than one copy. A single Dark Transformation, which is a good additional removal spell when you need something that always works. And a single EMP, another good answer. I think EMP is like... Again, a lot of these cards feel like, well, I might need this sort of slots. I think EMP is a bit awkward in Swarm, because it unbuffs your Wraithlings after Furiosa, it nerfs your Thunderhorn, nerfs your Variax Wraithlings, nerfs your Desolators, nerfs a lot of your stuff, basically. Nerfs your DFC. I don't think... Oh, and it destroys your own Soul Grimoire as well. So, like, it kills basically all your own stuff. That's not very good. The card is still powerful, but, you know, the amount by which you have to be careful with your own stuff in order to get purely positive value out of it is a big deal. And there's 2 copies of Stygian Observer. I'm not really sure what this card is there for. I guess, like, longer, grindier games where you can make crappy, tiny creatures that you're forced to play into bigger ones. It seems like kind of a good idea, actually. So I'd be interested to see how that turns out. I like that. I like that line of thinking. There's a lot of expensive cards in this deck list. It seems like the sort of deck where you'd want Darkfire Sacrifice. Moving on to the opponent, we have D5 Drake. Oh, keep doing this. D5 Drake with the Ragnora deck. So this looks like mid-range Ragnora. It's like Magma normal stuff. There's some pretty cool cards here that I'm a fan of. So there's a heavy emphasis on the combo. For those not in the know, Ragnora has a combo that is Bloodborne spell plus a thing that hatches an egg plus a thing that buffs it. And this deck has a full 7 things that can hatch an egg, as well as extra ways to generate eggs with Rage Reactor, ways to draw cards off eggs, ways to benefit off eggs being in play, and of course the buff itself, Greater Fortitude. There's also synergy with Erratic Raptor in particular, as well as there being a bunch of random rebirth minions in the deck because they're good. Erratic Raptor is nice because you can attack with it for 5, it immediately turns into an egg, and then you can pop it back out again for another 5 damage. So it can do its own 10 damage burst combo earlier in the game, but it has to stay in play for a ton. So you can get a lot of powerful value out of that. Backing all this up, there's Eggmorph, pulls double duty as removal. Morin Kerr pulls double duty as bad removal. Homeostatic Rebuke is really good AoE, as is Plasma Storm. And there's Lava Slasher and Mechanical Warbeast, which, you know, 2 of the best cards in the game. Even with Lava Slasher's nerf is still a really strong card. You want to be playing those. And there's Cryptographer to help spam those eggs out. So there's, again, a very strong emphasis on egg synergy on the combo. There's lots of ways to burst your opponent down, lots of ways to generate extra eggs your opponent will struggle to answer. I forgot what exactly Rage Reactor does. It's like +1 attack, and when your general destroys an enemy, you make an egg, right? for 1 mana. Yeah, that's pretty strong. That seems good. I think the cheap +1 attack artifacts are actually underrated. I have actually played Sunstone Braces before, on purpose, in a non-budget list. Only once, but like, I was building a budget deck and included it because it can kill 2-drops, and actually it does that really well. Moving over to the sideboard, this is a nice coherent sideboard with 3 copies of Natural Selection. I think with the amount of removal the deck already has in the main, and the fact that you play so many Rebirth minions and Bloodborne spell activations, Natural Selection is very awkward, but I like having it in the sideboard for when there's stuff you really have to kill, because that happens, right? 2 Primordial Gazer, I feel like those could be in the main. If you're going to be this all in on the combo, forcing yourself to draw exactly Rate of Fortitude is kind of awkward, even though there's, you know, there's a couple embryonic insights to help you find it, but ultimately you're going to be holding on to those Greater Fortitudes for dear life because you need them, right? So I think I'd like to see the Gazer in the main. I'm not sure what the cut is, but I would like that. Taigete is a good mid-range unit. It's good for trade fests in general. It dies to your own Plasma Storm, which is kind of awkward, but if you're boarding Plasma Storm out, because your opponent has lots of big minions or not very many minions at all, Taigete is a really good thing to just slot right in. And then Juggernaut, which I guess is also to help against mid-range or control, where you just need a big trump card that you can flash out or jam in the late game. That, of course, combos hilariously with Morin Kerr. I think this is a nice list. It's pretty coherent. I think the card draw is a bit scant. I'd like to see a bit more card draw. Or you could do what I've recently started doing and put in more 2-drops and play Kolmar to get rid of all the non-combo pieces in your deck. But I think this deck has a bit too much removal for that. It's more of a tempo-y, like little bit combo control style. I think playing more Embryotic Insights would be good. Maybe Spelljammers as well, just a couple copies, so that you can actually play out your Greater Fortitude for tempo and not feel too bad about it. That'd be good. And to help you stay ahead on resources from your opponent, or make up for having like, well, I want to keep this Weldon Scepter in my hand, so, and I want to keep this Greater Fortitude as well. Now I've only got 2 cards to actually make play decisions with until I get to the point where they're on 10 life. So adding extra card draw really helps with that. So looking at this hand, this is really solid, but there's too many 3-drops, so you fortunately have the luxury of replacing one. I think either of these two are clearly better than playing Cryptographer on turn 1. I think playing this and playing Making an Egg is, you know, if they have a Blood Tear Alchemist or a Sphere of Darkness, which are both pretty common in Swarm decks, it's not going to do anything. So this is bad against Wraithlings. So I think I would keep the Ragebinder. Even though you have some synergy with Raptor Eggmorph, like your opponent's not really going to be playing multiple like 4/4s or whatever anytime soon, especially not ones that will be near the fight. They'll be hiding in the back with rules text on. So I think the best keep is this. I think you want this card. I think this will help. Like, there's not many draw spells in the deck, so holding on to them is a higher priority. I think this will be good for helping reload in the mid game, letting you play out stuff early, make trades, and then pull ahead with a draw spell. So I would ship these 2. This is maybe you keep this and ship this. This is a bit awkward because a lot of the time the really important targets for it will be far away. But it at least lets you reactivate Ragebinder. Worst comes to worst, you can trade this off, reactivate it, and then, you know, run into the enemy line to kill a Blood-Tide Priestess. So I think I'd ship these 2. On Arxel's side, this is a reasonable opening hand. I like the 6. I think I would be replacing the Thunderhorn here. No, they replaced something else I didn't quite see because I looked away for a moment. Sorry, not Arxel, this is Infernosfame. I think you play... Cryptographer first. I think you put the Cryptographer here. Because a Zix token is not unlikely to die. Yeah, this is good. And you can easily slip the Zix into another turn later. So on Drake's side, Drake actually just replaced the draw spell, which I disagree strongly with, I think. This is a weird bit of positioning. I think you really want to take this mono tile against Swarm. It's so easy for them to use up all three of them in one go, as is almost certainly going to happen here. So Infernosfame is going to make a 6 mana play on turn 2 here, with Wraithling Swarm into BBS, possibly even running out the Soul Grimoire here. Oh yeah, actually Thunderhorn. Thunderhorn seems good. You can play Thunderhorn and just click the BBS button. That's very awkward for Drake to deal with. Like, they can do it, but this dies, Ragnora takes 4, and the egg is exposed. Yeah, that seems good. This is a good start for Infernosfame. Definitely, I do not like that attack at all. Like, the Ragebinder is heavily incentivized to trade with this. If you... Like, what are you afraid of? Like, that it kills the Cryptographer for free? You can always punch it next turn at that point. From Drake's perspective, this is an easy replace because it doesn't do anything. The Rebuke seems quite good. Yeah, I like this. You lose the Ragebinder, but worse things have happened. I would ship the natural selection because Infernos is going to have more Wraithlings. Kind of all these cards are awkward here. None of them do anything. Okay, that's good. Drake should definitely have replaced there. Like, most of these cards are really bad. Soul Grimoire, killing the egg. That's a good play. That's very scary for Drake. And Infernos' hand is looking pretty nice. The Gloom Chasers are bad, but like the Desolator is good and will buy time for them to find a payoff card. I don't like the Raptor here at all. It will just get basically killed by this Wraithling. But setting up the Propagate Rage is good. I think you want to play Cryptographer here instead and play 2 eggs. Or even Natural Selection the Wraithling. Like, maybe you play this and Nat Sell the Wraithling. And then Lilith has to actually attack it and take 5 damage and lose a charge on the Soul Grimoire in order to get rid of it. And you keep the egg. Yeah, I think you actually Natural Selection the Wraithling here. From Infernos' side, I feel like this is a Desolator Zix kind of turn. You definitely get rid of that Betrayal, it's useless. Oh, they just replaced it into it, okay. Oh, they replaced the Gloom Chaser into it, that's reasonable. I definitely like replacing the Gloom Chaser. No, don't do that. Attack it with the Wraithling. What are you doing? Come on. No! Your Wraithling is not that valuable. I mean, maybe this works out. With Desolator, you can afford to take extra damage. Not playing Wraithling Swarm. This is very bad, because Drake is about to get Macanto mana. And so it's pretty hard for Infernosfame to do this in a way that doesn't just get obliterated by a Warbeast. Oh god, that's awful. So Drake needs to attack this, I guess, and then... No, Drake needs to run away. Drake is going to die. No, I lie. You can use the Ripper to finish off the artifact, right? Clear all of these, and the Ripper comes up here and trades with the Soul Grimoire. And Drake is very, very far ahead right now. In terms of, like, advantage on hand, heavy life advantage. Infernos hasn't really managed to set anything up here. So what do you do from Infernos' perspective? That Betrayal doesn't seem worthwhile. Just to deal 4 damage. You don't want to spend a card to deal 4 damage. You want to run away and start playing Desolator. Well, Kyan's a decent draw. I don't like replacing the Zix to get it, but I do like it. Okay, Ragnora takes 4 damage for 6 mana. That doesn't seem very good. Oh, it counterattacks. Huh. Oh, Betrayal is better than I thought it was. I definitely don't like this move towards. You need to go over there. It's very easy for Drake to win here. Although their hand is terrible. This is good, I guess, right? As a card, it's good. 1 damage off lethal. I think you want to move out of the corner, for sure. Like, there's no reason to stay here. You want to back up so that Infernos has to run into the corner to try and be safe. And can't run away from you. Like, this way they have an escape. I mean, one life is pretty hard to come back from, but... Double Desolate is maybe the way to do it, though. This seems risky. I think at this point you have to just run away, Desolator, Furiosa, Shadow Spawn, and hope the spawns land in a place that protects you. Although you kind of do have to kill this. Otherwise you're basically dead anyway. Is it maybe you can like Ulquion into Grasp of Agony plus something? I don't know. Yeah. And Drake gets the win. Or disconnects? If Inferno had not hit that Raptor, he would have been able to clear the artifact. Yeah, and Inferno wouldn't have taken 5 damage. Like, I really don't like that play. Your Wraithling is not worth 5 damage in a Soul Grimoire charge. Just trade the Wraithling in and kill the egg. Like, especially as you've got, what was that, like 5 or 6 mana worth of extra development to make after that. It's not like you're going to lose board. It's a bit awkward. Infernos is also struggling from not having played, or struggling somewhat, from not playing Sphere of Darkness in their deck for this. Because Sphere of Darkness is really, really useful against Ragnora. Now, obviously playing Cryptographer and stuff helps Ragnora push through that. But it still makes a big difference to the matchup. I think Drake's actually disconnected here. That's so unfortunate. Oh, this must have been why they didn't finish the second match. Finish the second game even. Drake must have just had to go or disappeared or something. And they couldn't get in touch with him again. Man, lots of internet issues. Well, Infernos should have lost this game, but it doesn't look like they did. At least move away. Like, that's far too greedy. Like, move away and put the Desolator in between you. You don't need to... Like, I know your opponent's AFK, but you don't need to, like, run the risk of them coming back and killing you. Inferno still loses this game to Warbeast. But Drake is AFK, so it doesn't matter. Oh, that's unfortunate.